when people come to you looking for a specific outcome, whether it's weight loss, whether it's muscle gain, and we're just keeping this more relevant for health coaches, but please understand what we're talking about is widely universally utilitarian. The main thing that you hire a contractor for probably isn't going to be necessarily the entire scope of the project. In fact, it's going to be probably very small, which is why you want to go in there and scope out the entirety of the project. What are all the weird things? What's the pre-work that has to happen? And so when we consider for most weight loss, people are going to have to understand how to work out, which means they need to understand in a workout, if we drill these things down, you need to understand how to warm up. You need to understand the proper mechanics of different lifts. And that takes an adoption curve because let's say you squat one time, it probably wasn't pretty and it probably wasn't heavy. Well, if you make it pretty, then you can make it heavier, which means that there's an exponential curve in terms of progress.
Of course it wasn't heavy.
It wasn't.
It was your warm-up.
Is your warm? Relax. Steve, warm-up strip. No, kidding. No one warms up. So we have to trick Steve into warming up. No, we're working out. It's just neuromuscular. So funny. So if you haven't subscribed to see the workout stuff, make sure you check it out. But I mean, it's so the work itself is, I would say, probably less than 1/3 of the entirety of the equation. You got to figure out what works. And that's where the pre-work comes in of, let's teach you the skills. Let's put the skills together and let's try them in different combinations until we find the winning formula. And then let's just dump gasoline on that and then accelerate the rest of your progress. But that pre-work, I'd say, is probably about 60% of it. And I love this quote that Abraham Lincoln said of, if I had 6 hours to cut down a tree, I would spend the first 4 sharpening my axe. And I think that there's some validity to that, although sometimes people can overthink it. But hiring a coach to help you figure out what works best for you quickly is probably the benefit of that. And then on the back end, what it takes to get there will be drastically different for the most part of what it takes to stay there. Mm-hmm. Because usually, if you recall, and if you haven't seen this episode yet, we talk about competence and like unconscious incompetence, where you have no idea that you're ignorant. Conscious incompetence, where you know that you have a deficiency and you know that I'm not great at this thing. Conscious competence, which is still very much in your head and you have to very much think about it. If you've ever seen a kid try to brush their teeth for the first time, you can see them like they know conceptually they have to do this, but it's like all over the place. And over the years, it just gets a little more smooth. And we think about it less, and then eventually it becomes unconscious competence. And so then what skills do we need to take them through those stages through to better execute the work? And then obviously once it's already ingrained and automatic, on the back end of that, now what do you need to do to stay there? And that's why if you don't want to gain all the weight back in 5 years, you need to have systems and structures on, well, what's actually sustainable? And that's why we say the most important thing when it comes to goal setting and weight loss, what is sustainable is probably going to be best, because it's going to be the thing that 5 years from now will help you maintain even a slow, steady progress at like half a pound a week. That's, what is that, 50? That's 26 pounds a year times 5. No one's going to lose 130 odd pounds. That'd be crazy.
Yeah.
So that's my take on that. Sorry for the monologues or diatribe.
No, and that's, at the end of the day, I think that there's this, and I just want to be really clear here, right? I think a coach has an ethical responsibility that if they no longer have an ability to help somebody achieve the next step in their journey, it is time to part ways, and hopefully you have somebody in your network to refer them to. Right? Like you have a literal joint issue that requires some type of further education, physical therapist, things like that. That is your ethical responsibility to do that. So that comes to a basic fitness goal that maybe you don't have the experience or qualifications to be able to help.
Yeah.
But outside of that situation, you again also have the ethical responsibility to maintain helping this person. Now, I also will say, and you've said this before, I agree and I disagree on certain instances.
Sure.
I could prove the point either way and fight on either side. A coaching relationship with somebody is only good for so long, because at some point in time, it's just not as effective anymore. And I think if the client and the coach can keep things aligned accordingly, then that can last indefinitely, again, under the ethical responsibility rules that we've set forth. But I also do believe over a period of time, there is just a friendship relationship that gets born, that over time, it's like, he's my best friend. I don't mind if I show up to this call 10 minutes late. It's fine. It doesn't matter. It just slowly happens.
Yes.
But all that to say, you should be a goal digger, right? Goal space digger. And at the end of the day, somebody has a goal. They have probably a first, maybe a secondary, tertiary goal when they first come to you. They achieve that first one. the second one may become the first one. Or what I feel like can happen is sometimes like the second one was kind of solved by the first one, or we start to create a level of importance or care about that, oh, it doesn't matter anymore.
Yep.
But what is the next most important goal to them that you can then help them with?
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I think sometimes we fail as coaches to have conversations early enough, not just at like, okay, cool, you hit your goal. What's the next goal? It's throughout the journey. Hey, we're seeing the trends, we're getting there, we're moving in that direction. Like, what's the next big thing coming that we need to go focus